स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतंगमय। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Let us bow down to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Friends, today's topic, Jnana and Bhakti. Knowledge and devotion. Both are equally important. Both are necessary. Both are essential. Then you will have fullness of experience of the truth. So, it is very important for us to know clearly how Jnana and Bhakti are complementary. One supplements the other. To give an example, a particular dish is prepared very nicely, deliciously. And the people who have prepared it, probably they might have tasted it in order to see that the dish is done properly. Then, suppose you come to know that particular dish is so nicely done. You might have heard very beautiful description of the dish prepared. But in order to enjoy yourself, you need a tongue. Without tongue, how do you enjoy the dish? Bhakti is the tongue. To enjoy the spiritual glory of God. To have the knowledge that God exists. God is present. He is everywhere, always watching. You can't maintain any privacy with God. You may not know, God knows. That's the knowledge. In order to experience that knowledge, in order to taste that glory of God, you need bhakti. Devotion is remarkably needed. And when knowledge matures, you get into devotion. It is through devotion you shed tears of joy. So in a way, knowledge leads to devotion. Knowledge without devotion is a dry knowledge, like the knowledge of a pandit, like a knowledge of academic professor, just academic. But it comes into life. It is activated through devotion. So, knowledge and devotion are upwards and reverse of the same coin. That coin is called God. You can call it as absolute Brahman. You can call it as Lord Christ. You can call it as Lord Krishna. You can call it as Lord Rama. Call by any name. Call by any name. Absolutely true. You are calling the same God. It is, Sri Ramakrishna gives the example. If you touch any part of the elephant, you are touching the elephant only. You may be touching the leg. It doesn't mean you are not touching the elephant. One may be touching the trunk. One may be touching the head. One may be touching the belly. All these people are touching the elephant only. Same way, whatever name you are uttering, whatever name you are meditating upon, whatever form you are concentrating upon, you are concentrating on the same Godhead. This truth is very important to know. You must realize it. Then you will be wonderfully peaceful. There will be no conflict. Conflict cannot enter into your mind. So this clear conception is very important. That conception has been given by Sri Ramakrishna, who experienced the truth. It is through experience he has taught this lesson. Well, all religions lead to the same goal. What a splendid truth it is. It is splendid. It is splendid because each religion leads to the truth. So it is splendid. If it is not leading to the truth, then it is trash. Sri Ramakrishna is authenticating all the religions of the world. No one religion is inferior. No one religion should claim superiority over the other. Because all paths are holy paths. All paths are sacred because all paths lead to God. The sacredness comes because it leads towards God. If it leads towards the opposite direction, it is no more sacred. I should say, you are leading towards hell instead of heaven. Going to God means you are going towards heaven. Going towards heaven means you are going towards God. Going to hell means going towards the world. Going towards the world means going towards the hell. Hell means suffering. Are you not suffering in this world? Because you are away from God, so you are suffering. Because you are ignorant, so you are suffering. Because you don't have proper devotion, so you are suffering. Delicious dish is prepared, you are not tasting it. How can you feel joyful? Tell me. Even if 100 people say it's excellent, excellent, you can't feel that experience of excellence unless you taste yourself. So devotion is remarkably important and necessary to enjoy the glory of God. But knowledge is important to the extent you must know that a certain thing exists there. If a person knows there's a treasure in that particular piece of land, people rush there to grab the treasure. But the initial knowledge is required that treasure is available there, then the man will proceed towards that, in order to grab it, in order to enjoy it. So when it comes to the point of getting delight over the treasure, the bhakti element enters there. So, jnana and bhakti, knowledge and devotion are inseparable. They are inseparable. Sri Ramakrishna, embodiment of knowledge, embodiment of devotion. He taught the value of devotion to his teacher, Totapuri, who initiated Sri Ramakrishna into the path of non-dualism. That highest truth was experienced by Totapuri, who became the teacher of Sri Ramakrishna, but Sri Ramakrishna in turn taught him the supreme significance of devotion. How can the fire exist without its power to burn? How can you have any concept of fire if you don't realize the significance of the power to burn? In the same way, Brahman and its power. Brahman in its absolute sense, he is in unmanifested state. I should say, Sri Ramakrishna says that he is beyond manifest and unmanifest state. The question of unmanifested state came because of manifestation. So before it could manifest, it would be in the unmanifested state. To give an example, a baby is born. Before the baby is delivered, it is in unmanifested state in the womb. It is in the form of an egg. It comes out and manifests itself. So, God is present through His manifestations in a visible form, and He is present in unmanifest condition in invisible form. Both this unmanifest and manifest state exist in that absolute, universal, all-pervading consciousness which we call as Brahman. That's the beauty. Now, jnana means knowledge. It has got its own methodology. You have to follow it up very seriously if you are aspiring for truth. So, you have to build up that aspiration. Are you building it up? Nobody is giving any attention to building up spiritual aspiration. People go out of the way to build up their worldly aspiration, to build up their worldly personality, to build up their name and fame, to build up their position, to build up their status. They go out of the way. Not to build up spiritual personality. Show me one person who really aspires for it. That's why you feel not many people show so much of intense attachment, intense attention towards the spiritual practice or spiritual idea. They simply talk. They have seminars, conferences, have nice dish, enjoy, go. Fix the next date when the next seminar would be. That's all. It starts with seminar, ends up in seminar. The result is seminar only. in paper, not in action. To translate into action, you require remarkable discipline in life. You have to be extremely attentive and serious. No concession business there when you come to spirituality. The more rigorous you are, the more you'll be able to go forward in your spiritual path. Because the distractions are so much, it becomes nearly impossible to come towards God or to aspire for spiritual knowledge. But people do come, but there are categories. Some people aspire for knowledge after suffering severely in the life. What is this nonsense? I am suffering in this world. Is there no hope? Is there God? Where is He? What is He doing? Why I am suffering? He is putting all these questions because He is suffering. So doing and undoing both are in His hands. If you have to undo it, you have to apply your mind. Next question is application of the mind. Where is your mind now? It is somewhere else. You are sitting in the chapel, but mind is in Chicago. So, how very important to have reasonable control over the mind. So controlling of the mind is essential whether you practice path of knowledge or whether you practice path of devotion. Whatever spiritual practices you want to do, controlling the mind is the first and immediate step to be done. Because it is through mind only you have to go beyond the mind. You can't bypass the mind and go. You cannot do it. To go beyond the mind, you have to go through the mind. That's a process. That process is given in the path of knowledge. And that is the process of rejecting all that is unreal and pursuing that which is real. In order to do that, you must have firm conviction. Without firm conviction, you will not be able to move an inch forward in the path of knowledge. So every step in the spiritual practice is very important. That you must know. Every step is important. So, it depends upon how much importance you are giving. To that extent, your spiritual personality develops. You have to develop your spiritual personality. You will have to struggle for it. Struggling is no problem. Everyone knows the way of struggling because everyone is struggling only. But struggling in a wrong way. Struggle in a positive way. Struggle for the good. Struggle to realize God. Struggle to realize Him. To have His vision. That is worth struggling. That is worth struggling. So, all the senses, the mind, this human vehicle must be directed towards spiritual struggle. Not your material struggle. It's a trash. Simply it's a trash. The more you come towards God, the more you see how the whole thing, other than God, is simply a trash. So, you must have strong discrimination. Your mind should be very sharp. You analyze what is really good, what is really bad. Some things you will be able to decide on yourself, and some things you will know by hearing from the spiritual holy people who are living that life. So, you must have readiness to accept and digest and learn the things in whatever way you are able to assimilate them. So, the very important discipline that is stated in the pursuit of knowledge is that neti, 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 neti. It's a famous Sanskrit phrase. Neti has got two words, na plus iti. Iti means this, na means not. Neti means not this. If I repeat 3 times, neti, neti, neti means not this, not this, not this. That means whenever you say not this, you are deleting it. If you say twice, neti, you are deleting twice. Not deleting the same thing which you have deleted already. So, the whole world presents to you in a very colorful, attractive way, just to tease you, just to hug you, just to make you part and parcel of itself. That is its nature. If you know that is the nature of the world, then you will not be caught. Otherwise, like a foolish child, you will be caught in that net and you will be gone. That means the life for which you are born is gone without the fulfillment of the purpose for which the life was given to you. Most of us do not know for what purpose we have come here. People think we have come here for the way of life which we are seeing all through in this world. How many people do realize, how many people do really know that the purpose of life is not for simply dancing here, there, etc., but to apply your whole mind towards realizing the truth. That has been pointed out by Sri Ramakrishna. Just before he started his life, he said, look, my life is not in the way people run after. My way is I want to really realize God. If there is God, I must see. Is it a myth or is it real? I have come to test it. So he became the remarkable scientist. People are boasting about scientific outlook. And Sri Ramakrishna is showing a model even to this modern scientists also. Look, I am also a scientist. So what he has done in his laboratory, do it yourself, you will also get it. That's what science means. It must be able to be translated by anyone. If it is done in one laboratory, in another laboratory also it must be done. Then it is true. Same way Sri Ramakrishna tells, look, I have done. I am telling you God is there. I am telling you I can talk with God. I am telling you do like this, you will see, you will talk to God. That they won't do. Even if Sri Ramakrishna shows you God, you think it's a dream. How do you know it is real? As long as the doubts crop up in the mind, you will be always in the darkness. You will be always ignorant. As long as you are ignorant, you are always foolish. As long as you are foolish, you will be always suffering. For some reason you will be suffering. Even with everything, you will be suffering for something which you don't know. See? So, Sri Ramakrishna has pointed out the first important, you can say, shots on knowledge. He gave it the first shot, that is to realize God is the first thing to be achieved in this life. Then everything comes secondary. All things comes next. What is the first and foremost priority? To see God. I don't want to divert my attention to anything else. And I want to put all my attention, I want to focus everything in order to achieve that goal. And he did that. He did that. 1836 to 1886, Sri Ramakrishna lived. In that period, how much he practiced spirituality, how much he shared that joy with people, how he trained his disciples, how he gave that message of Vedanta to the West through Vivekananda. So, eyes are given to open, to see the truth. Eyes are meant to see the truth. So, not this, not this. This not this approach will make your path clear. When the path becomes clear, you are able to walk through. Sri Ramakrishna gives a very good example, a remarkable example. Through examples, see how nicely he teaches the sublime truth of Vedanta. How this neti approach should be understood. By story, he beautifully explains this idea. A thief enters to your home. He wants treasure. He wants nothing else. It is dark. There cannot be any light. If there is light, thief cannot get his things, what he wants. He has entered the home and carefully, not making any noise, slowly he begins to touch one by one. First of all, he touches the table. This is not. This is not. Goes to next object. Chair? No. Some article? No. Vessel? No. He keeps on touching and going here, there. Dark. It is completely dark. And finally he touches a thing where he doesn't have any doubts. It is treasure box. He grabs it. He need not be told, and he doesn't have to apply neti anymore. He is at it. Same way, going to God through the path of knowledge. And he gives another example. That's also a beautiful example. How this neti Not this approach is applied. A visitor comes to see a king's palace. Beautiful story. Nicely the idea is embedded in there. You must go through Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Read it with attention and devotion. You will simply, in every page you will shed tears of joy. Because the language is so impressive and simple and direct. You see, for example, this thief story. Nobody can say no to what Swamiji has said. It is true, the thief behaves like that, not these modern thieves. I am not talking about electronic thieves. I am talking about ordinary thieves. Anyway, Swami Sri Ramakrishna takes the ordinary examples and gives out sublime philosophy. That is the beauty of Sri Ramakrishna. And here the visitor comes. He is coming with his friend. He enters the first gate. You know, king is not simply available. He enters the first gate. Even the first gate itself looks very magnificent. When he enters the first gate, he saw beautiful carpet laid, and all the walls are well decorated with wallpapers, and beautiful flower vases everywhere, directed nicely, beautifully decorated. And for this visitor who is seeing for the first time, he is excited to see, oh, what a grandeur. And there a person is sitting with a big, beautiful, nicely dressed mustache. Because those days kings used to have mustache, even the Darwans used to have. The security guard also will have thick mustache. Nowadays that's all going away. Well dressed and good looking, trim looking, very impressive, and surrounded by all other assistants, so many people. And this fellow visitor, who knows nothing about the guards or any such thing, for the first time he is coming. He is exclaiming, "Is this the king? Is this the king?" Then the friend who belongs to the local area, "You are a fool, he is not the king. Go further. Not this. Not this." Is it so? Then he goes enter inside. Second gate. Second gate is more gorgeous than the first state. There the man looks more beautiful than the previous one. He has got other attractions there. Again he exclaims, "Well, I have come to the king now. Is this the king?" No, not this. Again he goes to third gate, fourth gate, fifth gate, sixth gate. In every gate he is asking, "Is this the king? No. Is this the king? No." When he comes to last gate, seventh gate, he doesn't ask the question at all. He just by seeing he realizes it is king himself. He doesn't have to ask any question. See how Sri Ramakrishna gives this example. When you arrive at the truth, there is nothing more explanation required. You are at it, you got it, finished. Game is over. You have touched the granny, you are freed. You got mukti, liberation, got fulfillment, blessed, called by any name. Another example Sri Ramakrishna has given. See, beautiful example. These examples, I am overwhelmed. I am overwhelmed to read these examples and speak about how nicely he is taking us, giving the idea about path of knowledge. If you know it, how you enjoy it nicely. He gives another example. He takes the example of onion. Onion, it has got so many layers. It looks beautiful when you see good onion. Curiosity will come. What is there inside the onion? I want to see. So big it looks, hard and sturdy. and so tasteful when you eat it, more tasteful when you boil it, more tasteful when you spice it. What is that inside? Let me see. Go on peeling it, one after the other. There's nothing, there's nothing, there's nothing. You come to the end. You come to the end. So that means you come to the point of reality there. And he explains it this way, because we are generally obsessed with ego. I am hurt. That fellow insulted me. He was angry at me. He begged me. He teased me. He hurted me. All sorts of things you use. I. In a day, how many million times you use the word I? Million times. Probably that's also less, I think. Probably you may use more than that time. Every word you utter is always followed by I. You are so important. You feel so important. You feel neglected if that I is not there. You feel insignificant if I is not there. You feel unimportant if I is not there. You feel you are stupid or idiot if I is not there. It's all wrong, but you feel like that. If you know it is wrong, you are a Jnana Purush. You become the man of knowledge. Now here, Sri Ramakrishna is telling you, analyze that I. Who is that I? Analyze it. Like removing the layer of the onion. Go on doing that. Are you the leg? Are you the stomach? Are you belly? Are you the heart region? Are you the neck region? Are you the physical body? Are you the mental body? Go on analyzing. When you say my mind, when you say my body is different, I am different. My mind is different, I am different. My intellect, you are proud of your intellect. I is different, intellect is different. So you are analyzing it, then you go on withdrawing from, this is not I, this is not I, this is not I. Such an analysis of the ego convinces one that the ultimate substance is God alone. What will happen? When egotism drops away, divinity manifests itself. You don't know where that ego vanished. It has vanished. You are that reality. When you arrive at that reality, your life's mission is fulfilled. And that reality is not a dry one. It is remarkably blissful, immensely blissful, indescribable joy. And this also has been presented to us by Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna tells that highest knowledge is the state where one experiences the highest point of joy. Highest point. There is nothing higher than that. Highest point of joy one gets. And Sri Ramakrishna was so much tempted to give that joy, to describe that experience of joy to the people. He begins to explain stage by stage how one could experience that joy. But when he came to this region, the Sahasrara, the 1,000-petaled lotus in the brain region, where the spiritual aspirant experiences the divine bliss, when he came to that state, he could not describe anymore. The reason is, he has gone beyond the mind. When he has gone beyond the mind, there is no object, there is no subject. Subject, object merged into one. Who to explain to whom? Tell me, who to explain to whom? He could not do. Then after some time, his consciousness came down from the highest level to the little one step downward. Then he became aware of the devotees, and then he became aware of the thing, the idea which he was trying to explain. He became aware of that. Then immediately he says, well, I wanted to describe to you how that highest joy would be, but I could not because my mind, I went beyond the mind. Let me try again. He tried again. He tried again. Then he concluded, look, that joy is indescribable. You cannot describe that joy, but what can you do? You can only experience it. To experience that, follow this path. Neti, 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 neti. Go forward. And then arrive at the last gate. Finished. God is there. So, that's the path of knowledge. First is, you must hear properly. That's very important. Hearing properly. Hear the spiritual ideas in a clear way. Clear way. That means the ideas given by spiritual masters. Concentrate upon them. Keep on hearing constantly. Constant hearing is important. One hearing, you will have one idea. Second hearing, more idea. Third idea, third reading, more clarified. The more you read, the more and more knowledge you get out of that. So, hearing must be there. Then you should not stop at that. Along with hearing, you must go to next step. That's called manan. First is called shravan. I am putting the Sanskrit phrase. Shravan means hearing. Constantly you must be dwelling upon the spiritual idea. That's the way to train the mind. That's the way to create the formation in the mind. That's how to create mind format. You have to have format to have the spiritual knowledge. With this worldly format, we can't expect anything. Really. If you want to have spiritual experience, if you want to enter into the realm of spiritual field, you must have proper mental format. For that, constant hearing, attentive hearing must be done. Then you must keep on thinking and rethinking. Thinking more deeply what you have heard. That's the step which is, again I'm putting Sanskrit phrase, manan. Cogitating. Constantly thinking the same idea over and over again. Then along with this, not Shravan is over, Manan is over, then I will go to next. No, not over business here. You have to go along with that. First comes Shravan, then along with Shravan you go with Manan, then along with Manan you go to Nididhyasan, third step. The Nididhyasan means meditation. Meditation means concentration. Concentration means total focus. Then you get into the highest state of bliss, which is called samadhi. That is the state where the supreme knowledge is manifested. So, the path of knowledge takes you towards that, towards the place where knowledge is present to you in its perfect state, not false state, not false knowledge. There is no question of editing the ideas there anymore. No question of editing comes there. Then comes, when you have that knowledge, then you become really remarkably joyful. And in order to taste that joy, as I said in my introduction, you need devotion, bhakti. Bhakti. A person is supremely fortunate if he has bhakti. Through bhakti, it is very much easier to see God than through knowledge. Has said in his life story how the man of supreme realization of the knowledge of Brahman, Totapuri, whom I said, really remarkably great, there is no doubt about that. Totapuri, he himself said, I spent 40 years of continued meditation to have the realization of Brahman. But then his realization was not complete. So his knowledge, the realization of the knowledge must have to be soaked in the devotion, must be soaked in bhakti. That was done by Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna gave the finishing touch to the realization of Totapuri. When Totapuri came, when he initiated Sri Ramakrishna into Advaita, Sri Ramakrishna realized it in 3 days, and Totapuri was stunned to see that, and he was very happy that here is a disciple who could realize the truth in 3 days, where the master himself, Totapuri, should have to take 40 years. Next day, when Totapuri came to see Sri Ramakrishna was dancing, clapping his hands. And Totapuri was amused. He said, "What? Are you making rotis? Are you making chapatis? What are you clapping for?" He was ridiculing in a way, because he didn't appreciate the acts of devotion and all such things. And once you have realized the absolute Brahman, what are all these things? He thought that knowledge which he had was the supreme knowledge and there's nothing more to be known. And here is a person who is clapping his hands even after the knowledge of the supreme Brahman. Sri Ramakrishna looked at him and smiled with devotion, and he said, "Well, absolute Brahman is true, but this is also true. With devotion, I am enjoying the Supreme Brahman more immensely." He couldn't understand Totapuri. He went back to his cottage in the Panchavati, nearby, very nearby. Slowly he developed some kind of pain in the intestine region, some pain, internal. He could not apply any medicine, internal, He thought, it's a small pain, why should I bother? But the pain, though started very minutely, it began increasing slowly. And it was bothering him. Bothering means he could not sit for meditation, because pain is persisting. Then let me go and have a company with Sri Ramakrishna. He would come to Sri Ramakrishna's room. As soon as he entered the Sri Ramakrishna's room, he was surprised that he was not having any pain at all. And he thought, oh, pain has gone. It's all. But the moment he left Sri Ramakrishna's room and went back to his cottage, again the pain would come from nowhere. An acute pain. And pain is increasing day by day. Day by day it's increasing. He cannot even walk. And he was stupefied. What? I have spent 40 years of my life in meditation, still I am suffering with this body ailment. I am not this body, I will kick off this body. That's the word he used, I will kick off. So what he did? He wanted to get rid of this body. Because he knew very well he is not the body. He is the consciousness, he is separate from the body. Then why should you have to be bothered about this? Throw it away. With that determination, he just entered into Ganges, the holy river, by which name this town is named after. Ganges, I have seen that Ganges in Calcutta. Huge, like ocean. If nobody tells you it is Ganges, you will simply say, what a big ocean. To give an idea, our Lake Michigan looks like that. Ocean. Looks like an ocean. Vast and clear. Beautiful to look. And Ganges is like that. Extremely beautiful. Even to see it. Gorgeous. So grand it looks. And it just entered into that. Thousands of feet depth. Thousands, not hundreds. Depth. Thousands of deep water. Totapuri is entering into water just to kick off this body. He could not do. He entered, walking and walking and walking. Water is not drowning him at all. He was perplexed. What? What is this Maya? What is this? What is this inscrutable power? That means I cannot throw my body myself? I have no power? Yes, you don't have power. There is something else which is guiding you. Immediately the vision of the mother came, flashed. Then he shed tears of joy. Well, I accept. That's the word. I accept. Maya, Brahman and its power, Brahman and Shakti are inseparable. You can't negate one and accept the other. If you have to accept both. When you accept both, then only your realization is complete. Otherwise your realization is not complete. No. Partial realization. Be happy with eating sugar candy and joyful. Don't say, I have taken rasgulla. Rasgulla taste is different than candy. Though both are sweets. So, it gave an awakening to him. Totapuri accepted it. That is Sri Ramakrishna's contribution. Jnana and Bhakti. Both are remarkably helpful and useful and needed for the spiritual aspirant. And when you come to bhakti, what is bhakti? Bhakti is a Sanskrit word. To put it in English, I don't know whether it carries the same spiritual significance, but anyway there is no other choice. Love. L-O-V-E. Generally love they use for everything and anything. I love you. But this love has special significance. Bhakti means it's not simply ordinary love. It is a purest form of expression of sentiments, of feelings. Bhakti. And how nicely they are classified. I am putting here and there little bit Sanskrit words. Don't get embarrassed. Because The Sanskrit words, they clearly pinpoint the idea which we are going to explain. So it makes easy first to know about that Sanskrit word, then go for English translation. The first category of love, bhakti means devotion. Devotion means love. Love of God. And this devotion are classified. One classification is, it's called as samartha, unselfish love. The second category, samanjasa, reciprocal, mutual. I love you, you love me. My love depends upon your loving, your love depends upon my loving. So, reciprocal. You expect something from him, and the partner expects something from you. It depends upon your mutual expectation. So, your love depends on expectation. In a way, it is a degraded love. Degraded. It is not the purest form of love. Purest form of love is unselfish. I expect nothing. Mother loves the child. He loves the child, that's all. She doesn't expect anything from the child. That's the purest form of love. To give an example. So samanjasa means reciprocal, mutual love. You are loving a person in order the other person also loves you. So your love depends on that. There is another category of love that is called sadharana prem. Sadharana. Sadharana means ordinary, which you see everywhere in this world. That is selfish love. You love a person because you want to be loved. If you know for some reason that person would not be able to give the love according to your expectation, you have no regrets to throw that person away. That is called selfish love. You don't regret. Because you feel your love is more important to you than anything else. If the particular person or particular thing is not giving love, throw it away. You don't have patience. You don't have that sharing business. Well, we are life partners. We are partners for the life. In all the moments, we should not diminish our love. That is the highest form of love. So, all this suffering comes on account of this way of approach. And again, Bhagavad Gita tells you 3 aspects of devotion: sattvic, rajasic and tamasic. It's a very vast subject. Very vast subject. And then the stages of practice for the purification are also mentioned in the holy scriptures of bhakti. How it is very important to have holy association, and how it is very important to have tremendous faith, shraddha. Shraddha is another Sanskrit word. Faith is a very feeble translation of the word shraddha. Shraddha means, it includes many things in that. It means devotion, one-pointed devotion, unshaking devotion, unadulterated devotion. All these include in that word shraddha. So, That is required. And nishtha, one-pointed direction. Not digging the well in 100 places and getting no water anywhere. Be one-pointed. Be one-pointed. Have you chosen particular form of God? Go ahead. Don't waste time in talking any such things. Go, realize. Then if you got time, then you talk with others. So, Ekanishtha, one-pointed, focused devotion is important. When you practice devotion, following all these disciplines, then your devotion gets matured. When it gets matured, you enter into a state of bhava. Bhava. When bhava matures, you get into bhava samadhi. Prema bhakti. Well, that is a stage where you will enjoy, you will taste the glory of God. Tasting the glory of God. Tasting, as I said earlier, tongue is required to taste, bhakti is the tongue. Knowledge is a dish. It's a dish only. To enjoy it, you need a tongue. God has given us tongue. God has given us everything. If we don't use them properly, whom to be blamed? Me only to be blamed. Thank you very much.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. May the Divine Spirit protect us, guide us, give us strength and right understanding. May we not hate one another. May love and harmony be with us all. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. May the Divine Lord protect us. May He nourish us. May we work in harmony with great vigor. May our study be illuminating and fruitful. May we not hate each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.